What happens when an African American and a white person fall in love and get married? Just 46 short years ago in Virginia, they would be thrown in jail or banned from living in the Commonwealth, as what happened with Mildred and Richard Loving. Well, the Supreme Court shot down the law that bans interracial marriage, but does that mean the issues these couples face have gone away? How do they grapple with critical concerns like raising children, overcoming family bigotry, or ignoring stares of those who do not approve? I'm Barbara Lee. Up next, we'll talk about loving someone of a different race. Another View is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Lee. According to the latest census, 1 in every 10 American heterosexual couples is in an interracial relationship. It's the highest number to date of mixed-race marriages. The largest racial combination is Hispanic and non-Hispanic, followed by couples where one person is multiracial. Whites and Asians make up the third largest group, and African Americans and whites are the fourth most frequent group of interracial couples. So what's love got to do with it? Our guests today say plenty. Please welcome Virginia's relationship expert, Alvian Lyons. Hi, Alvian. Welcome back.
Good afternoon.
So glad to have you with us. Angela Claypool and Robert Claypool, who are in a loving interracial marriage. Hello, Angela.
Hello, Barbara. How are you?
I'm just fine. How you doing, Robert?
Good, Barbara. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. And joining us by phone is Allison West and Michael David Murphy, creators of the website We Are the 15%, and they're also in a loving, married, interracial couple. How are you doing, Allison and Michael?
Very well, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. So I want to start with the gentleman, because I want to find out about your relationships first. And I'm going to start with you, Robert. How long have you and Angela been married, and how did you meet? Uh-oh.
I don't know if we can put this on the air, but we've been married now for just over 6 years. And we met about 13 years ago. I'm currently a manager at a car dealership, and she was working at one of our stores at another location, and just happenstance and came across each other's path, and it's kind of a fairy tale from there on.
Okay, and Michael, how did you and Allison meet?
Well, we met, let's see, we met 8 years ago we met, and we've been married for about 3 years now, if I'm doing my math correctly, and And honestly, and it's kind of funny to say this in public, but yeah, no shame, we met online.
Oh, okay. Okay. And the reason I asked about how you all met is that one of the issues that, as I was doing my research on interracial couples, is that they're saying now, because of the internet and because of social media and so forth, there are more opportunities for people of different races to just get to know each other more so than it used to be. Would you agree with that, Angela?
I would completely agree with that. In the world of the internet, in the world of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything else, you have so many more chances to interact with people you would otherwise never meet. Mm-hmm. And some of those conversations become very in-depth, and you find yourself communicating with them frequently. So it doesn't shock me at all that relationships are becoming a part of that. And, fortunately and unfortunately, a number of my friends are divorce attorneys. So one of the things that they constantly talk to me about is how much Facebook has impacted the longevity of marriages. So it kind of goes both ways. Because you're interacting with all those people, you're meeting people you really wouldn't have met before. So, from their very pragmatic standpoint, it's great for business. For the rest of us, it's a little bit more dangerous, but I absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm. Now, Allison, and I will let our audience know, since they can't see you right now, but both Allison and Angela are both African American women. And Allison, I want to ask you, you were online, you met Michael. Was it an issue because he was white?
Actually, no, it wasn't. And it's funny because we were kind of matched. Our parameters were really set wide. out of all the women in the world and out of all the men in the United States, Michael and I ended up together. I wasn't drawn to him because of that. I was drawn to him because I loved the way his mind worked. I liked that he made me laugh. He just happened to be in the skin he's in.
Mm-hmm. So Alvian, relationships have changed in terms of how we meet, how we join together. Mm-hmm. This is a good thing, a bad thing?
Well, actually, directly, yes, it's a good thing. Directly connected to the internet issue is that it takes away the difficulty that we sometimes have with getting caught up in the packaging. When you now are dealing with being able to connect with someone on an intellectual and emotional level, you discover that you have far more in common than in fact are different by virtue of your packaging. Mm-hmm. So the beautiful thing that is complementary to the whole expansion of bicultural, biracial relationships is that I am now discovering that we are so much more human and we are so much less a particular race or culture than we are just two people who are looking for a quality partner.
Now that works for us sitting here in this intellectual discussion, but I'm curious as to, and I'm going to start with you, Allison and Michael, how do people react to you? Because even though this is 2013, we know we still have some people who may not approve.
They just turn and run away screaming, pretty much.
But I mean, on a serious note, if you're out, do you get reaction from people?
We do occasionally. And early on, maybe we were looking for it more than we do now. It's strange. Even here in the South, we feel accepted because of the circles we hang in. But I think the more you look for it, the more you're going to find it.
So you pretty much ignore it. Is that one of the coping mechanisms, or you just decided this is not going to become a part of our life?
Definitely.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. What about you two, Robert and Angela?
I have to give them credit. They're way more evolved than we are. To be very honest, my husband's way more sensitive to it than I am. He grew up in small town Virginia. I grew up in New York. So I am accustomed to a world where it really doesn't matter what you look like. You date whoever you want to date, and everybody kind of lives with it. He actually dealt with a lot more of the racism than I've ever dealt with dating interracially or interculturally. So he's way more attuned to when it happens. I will say, quite frankly, that the biggest group that is typically opposed to seeing us together is actually middle-aged white women. We have no harder time than with them.
Really? And what did they say to you?
It's not as much what they say. It is the very overt discomfort that it's almost as if a wind blows through the room, and you get a lot of body shifting and a lot of stares over the shoulder and a lot of trying to smile at the kids and then not almost growl at us. It's palpable. The most accepting, ironically, is older white men. They think it's great.
Because they're checking out my wife.
Robert, what does that feel like to you?
Well, like my wife pointed out, I came up in small town USA, and it was not an easy transition, I guess, for the people around me. I've always been attracted to black women. Never really white women never really showed up on my radar. So, going from where I was born and raised in a farming community with everyone knows everyone, and you're trying to go by the quote unquote guidelines that they had set before you came, and then here I come, Mr. 6 foot blonde haired blue eyed white boy wants to change the script a little bit. So with that being said, I experienced a lot of the name calling, the racism, the family members not wanting to talk to you.
I was going to ask you about the family members. I mean, when you went to them and say, "Hey, I'm getting ready to get married to this beautiful woman here,"
yes.
What was their reaction?
Immediate family members. Well, first of all, you got to take it from the standpoint of they've now matured and gotten to the point where either you're going to accept me for who I am and what I choose to do, or you can just pack your bags and go the opposite direction. Immediate family members, mom, dad, sisters, there was never an issue with that. It was the family members of my mother's side of the family who was from the South. My father's from the Philly area, he was just, he was more of, hey, I got a boy and he likes girls and, let's roll with it type thing. So never a big deal, never a big deal for him. But my mom called it from her side of the family. And of course that, in turn stressed her out and caused issues with her. But at the end of the day, it was, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. And of course, when I got married, as I said, I had been with black women my entire life, so it wasn't a big shock. It was like, yes, he's found the one, the perfect one, and he's gonna, now take it to the next level. So, it's to go back for a second, like I said, the name calling was there from, I've gotten called, in lover and this and that and so on and so forth, and been to places, in the deep South and said, hey, your kind is not welcomed here and this type of stuff, and I'm not one to bite my tongue. I mean, as my wife will let you know, I may be small framed, but I'm that dynamite in the little package, so to speak. So I have no issue voicing my opinion. When we're out and there's that glance or that stare or whatever that seems as though this is not a kind stare, I've got something to say. I'm the one. She said I'm sensitive to it, but it was more so in the aggressive manner, I guess you could say, because I just don't like the disrespect that comes along with that. I don't like my children seeing that, because like you said, when you started the program, this is 2013, you would think we would have moved on, from those past issues, but clearly we haven't. So,
Michael, I want to ask you, because you and Allison are in Atlanta, have you faced the same things that Robert talked about?
I feel like reactions toward us as an interracial couple are very geographic and culturally specific. So, Angela and Robert, what they're describing is something a little more serious than Allison and I experienced. And in running the site with We Are the 15%, we get a lot of stories that are kind of have these extreme examples of people being shunned in their own communities. And in some respects, I think both Allison and I feel lucky to be here in Atlanta, which, while we're in the South, is a little probably more forward thinking about these kinds of relationships than other places, perhaps. I mean, just this past weekend, I was at a public event at a big festival, and I was totally amazed at all the couples that I saw. It seems to be honestly growing and becoming more accepted and more, I don't want to say popular, I hope that's not the right word, but more normal, essentially.
And we're going to talk about your website in just a minute, but I want to kind of talk more about you all's relationships before we get to what happened with the Cheerios commercial and how We Are the 15% came to be. Allison, I want to ask you, in terms of your family, and you bring Robert, Allison, I'm sorry, in terms of your family, and you bring Michael home. What was that reaction? Was there a reaction on that side?
There was a positive reaction on this side, and not because of what he looked like, but because of how he treated me. I'll be honest, I wasn't worried, but I was thinking, well, how will this come across to my dad? Let me talk about this man before I reveal.
And that's a very good point. How did your dad react?
And he listened to me, and I said, Dad, there's a guy in my life, and things are getting pretty serious. And I was talking about all the reasons I liked him and, was falling in love with him. And, he listened, and he was excited. And then I dropped what I thought would be the bomb on him. Oh, yeah, and he's white. He's white.
And it was crickets.
He's white. He likes to, yeah. So he responded in the best way I could have imagined, and he was happy for me. He was happy for us, and as long as I was happy and treated well, he had no problems with it, and he's grown into that, and I respect that and I admire that. I don't think that would have been the case years ago, just based on his own experience and his past belief that the more you have in common, possibly outwardly, the better the chances for your relationship. But he's grown and he's seen things, and I think he understands that his children don't have to bear the burdens he bared, you know, and he's always made sure, he and my mom have always made sure that they've passed that down to us, that their baggage would never be our baggage, and that we are, you know, we're free to make our own decisions in light of our own kind of cultural climate.
Angela, same question to you. How did your family react to Robert?
I'm going to put this gingerly. Mine weren't quite so happy.
Totally opposite.
My Robert is not the first white man that I've dated, but my parents kind of secretly harbored the notion that I would go away to the HBCU that I went to, that I would find my ideal black man, and I would leave these childlike habits behind and grow up and mature and marry appropriately. And then I turned 26 and was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to marry somebody else. And it was a tough transition. For my mother, it was a little simpler. My mom, very much like every mom, is I just want to know you love my daughter. And we sat down and we had a conversation. She said, explain to me why you chose a white man. I said, because quite frankly, he loved me in my own skin. I didn't need a weave. I didn't need to have makeup on. I could wear my scarf. It didn't matter what he saw me look like. He loved me as me. And that was a welcome feeling because I didn't get to experience that very frequently. I won't say ever, but frequently dating men of my own race. And she was like, okay, I'm done. My dad took a much longer time. He took a harder line. It was a little bit harder adjusting for him. I'm also his baby. So with the last child comes the weight of all of my full hopes and dreams, and I went as far left as one child could possibly go. But fortunately, I married a man who is committed to what family means, and he was willing to do the things that my dad needed to feel comfortable, to know that he was going to be a good provider, to know he was a man of integrity and character and ethic. And if you ask my dad now, he would never remember what it was like when we first got married.
Robert, I would love to hear from you about what that was like.
Well,
how did you win your father-in-law over?
Well, for sake of not putting myself completely out of the wheel, I'll leave out a lot of the details.
That's fine. I mean, it's comfortable as you feel.
As a father of two daughters, I kind of understood his apprehension when it comes to any man and being with his daughter, because you want that perfect, sent from heaven, never look at my daughter, never put your hands on, anything negative, at all times. But it was a little jarring, I guess you would say, to not be accepted. And I don't think it was so much more about my skin color, other than just he wasn't aware of who I was and if I was going to live up to the expectations that he had set years ago when she was first born. Now fast forward to 6 years into marriage, and I would say that we're best friends. I mean, I can call him. He tries to get me to go fishing with him all the time, and the various things that you would want a father and son to do. I call him dad. He calls me son. So there really is no. The relationship is definitely there now. It's blossomed, but at first it wasn't that, and I'm a burn the village down kind of guy. So if you don't like me or my family, we can isolate. We back each other's backs up, and we don't need anyone else. But fortunately, I had my the sound voice of reason, which is my wife, and she kind of walked me through that and made me put down my weapons and come to the table with peace. So and of course at the end of the day, a lot of people look at me as a light-skinned man.
He refers to himself as butter beige.
It's butter beige. Okay. So do you remember when you told your dad when you first called your father-in-law dad? Do you remember kind of what was going on at that time frame?
What it was is I actually called her mom first, and dad is very competitive. So, and I don't mind that because I'm a very competitive guy. With me is win or lose, and I want to be the winner. So when I called mom, and that was it, and dad, it was kind of like dad was standing there without the D word coming out of my mouth. It was a little, I would say it was probably a couple months after that, maybe 8 months or so into our marriage, maybe a year, that I called him dad at that point, and
it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay at that point.
That's great. Now, Alvian and Angela are sisters. I do want to make sure that our audience understands that. So, Alvian, I'm curious from a sibling's perspective, and then from your expertise in relationships. First of all, the dynamic of your family, because we African Americans sometimes react differently to
Absolutely.
the idea of mixed marriages.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a secondary lens in our family in particular, because we are first generation Americans. So my parents are both West Indian, and there's a very, very deep sense of culture and tradition. So to be very forthright, even when I chose my own husband, his selling feature was the fact that he happened to be Portuguese, but he happened to be Black Portuguese. So he understood the non-American experience, which was beneficial in being able to get him accepted in the family. But at the end of the day, in our household, the thing that is above all things is education. So the first thing that our parents assess is, are you at the appropriate level? Because I want my kids to marry the doctor's kids. So it was not as much, and Robert was very accurate in the sense that it wasn't always specifically about color, but when you combine my expectations for what I wanted for my brilliant, beautiful little baby girl relative to what it is that she's choosing, and did that come with the academic and professional achievement expectations, did all those things match in order for you to be the acceptable choice for my child, were all at play simultaneously. But to deny the fact that the beautiful package was wrapped in vanilla paper would be disingenuous.
So how did you feel about it?
Well, I felt very differently about it, because I too had dated I always say vanilla. I don't even use the term white and black generally. So just for audience and listenership, I believe that if we talk about color in terms of food, people would stop hating each other, because who doesn't like chocolate ice cream? And who doesn't like vanilla ice cream?
Yeah.
I mean, so I literally don't even use it. I don't even let my children use it. If you're going to describe somebody in terms of their packaging, you better describe it in terms of food, because I want to know that you could connect with the love in it before you're connecting with what it looks like. So I also dated lots of vanilla partners before I actually married my husband, just not as seriously as my sister did. So I had not necessarily gotten to the point that I was at the age that we would be considering dating. It was much younger in my growing up. And socioeconomically, we lived in an exclusively vanilla environment. So naturally, you would discover that there are connections that are made that are more about, and I'm going to use another color, green. Because depending upon where you are, the exposures that you have, the environments that you're allowed access to, you may find that you have far more in common with people that don't have the same packaging as you than those that do. Because socioeconomics is a much greater divide than culture or race per se. Because for all intents and purposes, there is a culture of money, and there is a culture of poverty. There's a culture of access and a culture of exclusion. So with all of those things at play, I think that our generations are changing, because those are more our commonalities. But as a sibling, I was not remotely surprised, because my sister is absolutely brilliant, and that's, just without saying. I was not surprised at all that who she was going to connect with, and I'm not saying that there aren't brilliant African-American men, or chocolate men as I would refer to, but where we were located, the likelihood of that was not high for her. So I knew that the original bonds that she would most likely make were going to be cross-cultural. And then for her to come to college, and even though she was in an environment where she had lots of options, the reality is when you have the orientation to life that you're looking for a good partner, you're not looking for a perfect package, there are a lot of options. So I wasn't surprised. But as soon as I knew that she was serious about marrying him, I started to do the background PR work because I liked him. So I wanted to do the background work so that we can ease into this.
So you were kind of the advocate in
I
the
was,
background
admittedly, because I am the older sister.
Okay.
And they do know that I had a real good sense of relationship.
So people out there, couples who are considering taking this next step and moving to marriage, how do you suggest, from your professional perspective, that they prep their families if they feel it's necessary to do that, because they know how they grew up and they know what the dynamics are internally?
Well, I think that the conversation is very important. I think that anytime you do the shock value experience in anything in life, you are more likely to have a negative response. You do better if you just ease someone into it. It's kind of like the whole boiling of a frog. The reality is if you go from 0 to 2,000 degrees, the frog will jump out of the water. But if you gently turn the water up, the reality is frogs will actually boil themselves to death because they don't notice the gradual change. So a little tidbit of biology there. So if you take that same approach to dealing with
a little bit at a time,
right, a little bit at a time, to killing the racism off in your family or the prejudice in your family, turn the water up just a little bit. So each time we're having conversation, we could be watching something on television, we could be listening to something, begin to open the dialogue. The fact is, it's never going to be perfect if you're dealing with a family who has an orientation towards prejudice and racism. It might not be perfect, but the shock experience can be greatly diminished by having that continual conversation.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking about interracial couples with relationship expert Alvian Lyons and interracial couples Angela and Robert Claypool and Allison West and Michael David Murphy. And we want to hear from you at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call if you're in an interracial relationship. If you have questions about what it's like to live in a mixed race relationship, give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Allison, I know you and Michael have a child. How old?
Yes.
How old?
She's 1.5.
She's 1.5. Okay. Did you have the conversation about how you're going to raise your daughter? And the reason I bring that up. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
We did, but you were going to say the reason you bring it up.
I was going to say the reason that I'm bringing this up is I had a conversation with one of my work colleagues earlier today, and I said, well, one of the issues is how are you going to raise your children? And his response was, you raise them like any other child. Is that the approach?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We raise her. We raise her to be fully aware of her status as a global citizen. She's not. It's not just black and white anymore. Like Alvian was saying, there's a green culture. There's so many other things going on in life outside of just being black and white, or telling a multiracial child he or she has to choose, or always bringing our racial issues to the forefront when raising our children. I don't think that's necessary. I do think we should talk openly about race. Michael and I do all the time, and I think there are healthy conversations and healthy ways to have our children be aware of things and to stand up for themselves in the event they feel the need to. But Michael and I, we make sure we talk openly about it, and we make sure we're on the same page in all areas of raising her.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you too the same question, Robert.
Well, I guess the biggest thing is that, I mean, we had, like I said, we have 2 daughters, and we very openly discuss race in our family, and to the point where there isn't a question that can't be asked. Of course, it was very nice for them to be brought into the world at a time where they got to see President Obama elected, and then at that point gives us an opportunity to lead into conversations as to how that wasn't possible in the past. We do have 2 daughters that are very, very light-skinned. I mean, of course, you get a huge spectrum of color when you blend races. I mean, technically, some would assume if they're just walking with me that maybe the mother is Israeli or of Middle Eastern descent. But we have that relationship with our daughters that there's, like I said, there's no question that they can't ask, because we definitely certainly let them know and build them up and let them know that there's going to be things in life that they may encounter that from people that is not fair. And,
how old are they?
11 and we'll be 11 in November, and 4.
11 and 4.
Yeah.
So has the 11-year-old faced any racial issues, Allison?
She has, actually. Last year, unfortunately, a student called her the N-word. And fortunately, because we have so many open conversations and so much open dialogue about race, she came home and told me immediately. And we sat down and talked about it, and she expressed her feelings and how she saw it and how she viewed it. And she was very confused because the student who called her one was also bicultural. And so we were going through the possible dynamics of why he would do something like that. But I was extremely proud of her for understanding that this is not an acceptable behavior. And even if I hear this colloquially among people of color, it doesn't make that okay. She had the kind of verbiage and the tools to be able to express, this didn't make me feel good. So let's talk about it. And Robert was being very honest. We have cultural conversations constantly because we have the added layer of me not coming from a American family and him coming from a very old American family. We talk about race as a function of culture, that these are all the cultural components that go into making you. So you're culturally West Indian and you're culturally American and you're culturally these things instead of these are the categories that you must fit in. And he is right. Our daughters are very, very fair-skinned children. So unless you see them with me, you would not necessarily know their mother was black. And as such, they have decided that they want to identify in the world as black. It wasn't something that we pushed on them. It wasn't something that we asked them to do. They're fully aware that their father is white, and they're fully aware that they have a bicultural element, but they have a genuine respect for being women of color as well. And that was something they came to of their own volition. And I will say part of that is because their father has such a deep respect for my culture. And I don't think we could have made it if he didn't. He genuinely respects and appreciates being a West Indian. And it helped a lot with my father, who's very proud to be West Indian.
I'm kind of like Jerry Maguire. I love black people.
And I have a deep respect for history. And with his family, a lot of American history is tied into his family line. So our respect for each other's cultures is what makes it easier. We don't relate to things as a function of race. It is the history that we come with. And that has allowed them to navigate the world pretty well.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Jarrell joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Jarrell. You're on the air.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to kind of add on a comment. First, I'll say thank you for having this conversation. It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying myself listening along with you.
Thank you.
I'm 24, going on 25, and I'm engaged to a vanilla female who I love dearly. It's interesting because as we first started talking and started dating, I was kind of nervous to meet her parents, being that they are of a Caucasian background, and my family, I'm African American. So growing up, I gravitated more towards anybody who was nice to me and who was willing to have a good time. But in short, my father actually ended up shocking me ultimately by asking me at one point, you know what, Jarrell, when are you going to bring me a nice black girl home? And I was just taken aback by that it kind of hurt my feelings. And I said, you know what, Pop, never. I was always so open to any race, and they always raised me to say, be nice to everybody, be kind to everybody. There's no matter what color of skin you are. My mother, on the other hand, was totally accepting as long as she made me happy. That's all she was worried about. But I love my father to death, and I don't think he meant it by any standpoint of being racist or bigoted. But it was just a shocker to me that he would ask me something along those lines, basically.
Well, I'm going to get Alvian to react to that. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Jarrell.
No problem.
Thank you. What do you think? I mean, it's not a surprise. I'm not surprised to hear that, but
it's so common, and we speak out of our understanding. And particularly when you start talking about generational issues, there is such a perspective that is shaped by the experiences of that generation. So we almost have, and I'm not saying that we give people a pass. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we hear them contextually. So I hear what you're saying. Now that you understand that this is somebody that I truly love, I need to see that you love me as well, such that you want happiness for me. So it's not always where we start in the conversation as much as where we end up in the conversation. So I'm glad to hear that there's been some progression where that's concerned, because given what Jarrell said, that I don't believe that it came from a bigoted place, I don't believe that suggests to me that even though at the moment it might have felt like it did, something has happened since then in the context of their relationship that makes him feel like, you know what, my dad has moved past this point to be able to understand that this is somebody I truly love.
I want to open this question to any of you the panelists on here, but how do you react to people when they say, but that's diluting the race, that it's changing, we're no longer going to have an African American race if we continue this?
Well, when I first started,
ahead,
I said I was going to make it my point to make the Claypool, my last name beige. I was going to, and it wasn't more so because I liked black people more or disliked white people more or anything of that nature. That was just that's what I was drawn to and what I gravitated towards. But if you really look at the human species as a whole, the race has already been diluted as it was.
Absolutely.
I joke with my wife all the time. We did a brief look into my family tree, and of course traced it back well over to England, and then 1600s and so forth. And I was like, I was like, aha, I found it. There was the one white Claypool that moved to Jamaica, and he of course then fell in love with black women, and I was wondering where that trend started at. So it skipped quite a few generations, but now it's here again. So I'm just doing my part to carry on.
We can laugh here, but when the Cheerios commercial came along, and we're going to play that clip in just a second, but when that commercial came along, a lot of people online reacted very differently than those of you who are sitting here now. Let's listen to that commercial.
Mom.
Yes, honey?
Dad told me that Cheerios is good for your heart. Is that true?
Says here that Cheerios has whole grain oats that can help remove some cholesterol, and that's heart healthy.
Now, let me fill in the blanks a little bit for those who may not have seen the commercial. It is an interracial family, a white mother, a black father, and a mixed child. And the father is lounging on the couch, taking a nap, and the little girl goes in and makes a heart of Cheerios because she wants his heart to be healthy. And the negative reaction that happened on the internet was so incredible that they had to shut down the commenting period. And Allison and Michael, that's when you started We Are the 15%. Tell us about your website.
It's a place where people can submit a photo of their family or of their relationship. That basically started around this idea that 15% of new marriages in the U.S. are interracial. And so we were just having a discussion, and the idea was kind of born from that statistic. And we just created this website, and people have been sending their images every day. We have thousands of pictures, and we're doggedly posting 5 or so a day. And that's how it started.
Wow. Go ahead, Robert.
I actually would just like to ask a question. Do you feel as though, and this is to anyone, do you feel as though that that people have more issue with white women with black men as opposed to, in my particular instance, a white male with a black female?
You can join me. You can become my co-host now. But I wonder, do you find, Allison, in you and Michael's travels, do you find that there's more reaction if it's a black male with a white female?
Possibly. It seems like people. I feel like while people see this kind of combination a little less than the black male white female combination, I feel as if there's a quiet thumbs up, and that right on black women. It seems as if the other combination was so prevalent for so long. Now there seems to be a freedom with African American women in choosing different kinds of partners, and not necessarily feeling that the only proper choice is someone of the same race.
Wow, I'm seeing Angela shake her head here.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when the movie Something New came out, and for myself and my friends who dated interculturally, interracially, we cheered in the movie theater because it was such a moment where it was like, for once, someone is understanding that we don't date white men because it's a status symbol. We're not dating white men because we want to be vindictive to the black men who dated white women. It is as simple as thank you for loving me in my own skin. I don't have to hear about what I am deficient in. I get to be valued as I am with this particular man. And it has nothing to do with the entire race being blanketed. I just found one who loves me.
Exactly. It doesn't mean I disrespect my father. It doesn't mean
Right.
I have my own personal issues. It has nothing to do with me respecting myself as a black woman. I love this man.
And that's so much
Simple.
a part of the conversation. Well, do you not respect black men? Do you not respect yourself? And here's what it really, the part where it stings, where there's the assumption that, okay, are you doing this because there's some level of preference or status involved in this? Is this your quiet rejection of your race to say, I'm one better than black people, I've married a white guy? And quite frankly, we feel very much the opposite. There's a lot of guilt that goes into, I didn't marry a black man. It takes a while. I can't speak for everyone. It took a while for me to be really, really comfortable in my own skin to the extent where I was just okay with the fact that my husband was white. And we had long conversations about it because I never wanted my parents to feel like them moving me to a nice neighborhood, keeping me in extremely exclusive schools and classes where very frequently I was the only black child, then translated into me thinking it was better to be white. And I know that at some level that was a concern my parents had. Did the images they showed me in my youth translate into me thinking in order to be at the top of the pinnacle of my game that I couldn't take my culture with it? And I so wanted to make sure my parents understood that was never a part of it. It was never about rejecting being black. It was about being loved as a black woman. I can honestly tell you my husband would not have married me if I wasn't a black woman. And I'm okay with that.
He said that's a fact.
That's a fact.
I adore that because it means I don't have to be a woman, then black, then everything. I can just be Angela as a black woman who happens to love my husband, who got to enjoy that full American dream that all of us want a part of because I happen to be me.
So your dating time, you dated a multitude of races. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so it really truly was just a choice in terms of who loves you.
Absolutely.
The most. Yeah. Alvian.
I think that it's so important for us to recognize the importance of feeling loved and accepted. We underestimate how significant that is. And I was just doing a show the other day, and I was explaining with a panel of men, I was explaining that every woman wants the ultimate. And what the ultimate is to be craved by her man. And to be craved by your man is that he doesn't want anybody else but you. Anytime we're in a relationship where we question whether or not we are our spouses, our partner, our significant others ultimate, when we are something less than what they truly desire, it breeds such a sense of or lack thereof of confidence. No woman wants to be insecure in her relationship. Everybody wants to be in a place where all of them is welcomed into the room. So to be in relationships where you find a place where you can be your naked self and know that you are fully loved and truly appreciated, that doesn't come with a package. And the reason why people are not successful about trying to tear that apart is because no one will trade that sense of knowingness. No one wants to give up that feeling.
Okay, I have to ask Angela and Allison this question because it came up in our pre-discussions. And that is, even though both of you are African-American women, the question was asked, if you are in an interracial relationship and you happen to be a white female and your children's hair tends to be more African American, how do you deal with that? And so I want you two to give some advice to those women in terms of how do you comb the hair, because that is a big issue.
I can chime in on that too.
Can you chime in on that too, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he braids hair.
Okay, well then let's start with you, Robert. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's to me, and of course, I didn't grow up braiding hair or any of that thing of that nature, but it's not. There is certainly a difference between a texture of, I guess, quote unquote, a Caucasian's hair and that of a black child's hair. But at the end of the day, it's still hair, and you have to. Yes, there's some differences. There's some things that you have to do different as far as caring for and so forth. But I just learned it. I'm the jump in the trenches guy and figure it out type of thing. So I did that. I braided hair, I washed hair, I combed hair. I did everything you could possibly think of, and I can do a mean braid. I can tell you.
Hey, Michael, can you braid too? Michael?
I have not gotten into the braiding yet, but I think it's just because her hair isn't long enough. She like to comb it or brush it. You can tell I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Michael, I'll shoot you a YouTube video. I got you.
Okay,
There you go, Robert. That's perfect. That's perfect. And I was going to say, with the resurgence of the, I guess, natural hair movement, even in the African American community, there's so much information out there on how to do varying textures of curly hair. So it's any woman who adopts a child or who has a child that has hair of that type, there's so much information out there. And for the record, we're just twisting her hair right now. No praise.
No praise, just twisting right now. Angela, you want to chime in?
I completely agree. The internet is your best friend right now. If you don't have cross-cultural friendships, the internet and black hair salons, they will happily help you learn some of the basic things. There's something about African American women that is very kind of ingratiating when we know that someone needs help, because it's not malicious. We know that you're just trying to find out what to do correctly, and we're so okay with you asking questions, especially if it's like, listen, I have a kid whose hair is a mess and I need to make sure that they walk out of the house looking well groomed. We're just ask. Like the worst thing that someone can say to you is, I don't know what to do either. But between being able to Google so many of the natural hair movements, Facebook has 1 million natural hair pages out there right now. And with children are a very easy way to discuss almost anything. Can you help me with my child is a very different discussion than, hey, why's your hair like that? Yeah. We don't feel the same sense of defensiveness when we're talking about helping a kid. So call the black friends that you have. If you don't have any, call the local hair salon. You can get
get this done. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes left. Allison and Michael. Michael, tell people where they need to go if they want to send a photo of their mixed race family to We Are the 15%.
Yeah, weareth15%.com, percent spelled out. And there's a submit link right on the homepage. And definitely take a look at all the pictures of all the families. I guess we posted maybe 500 pictures already.
That's fantastic. Allison West and Michael Murphy, thank you so much for joining us here on Another View. We really appreciate you being with us. Take care.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank the Claypools, Angela and Robert, for being on the show. Thank you so much. And Alvian, as always, you are just always fabulous. You have the last word in about 10 seconds.
Just that, remember that love is more important than color any day of the week.
That is fantastic. And you know what? We will continue this conversation because I think this was a great one. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Daphne Maxwell Reid, and if you'd like to have another insightful conversation about the African American community, join us on Another View, WHRV 89.5.
And welcome back. A great discussion and some very honest conversation. So I hope that you enjoyed that. It's always exciting to see a young, fresh face in power. And one of the newest faces in politics belongs to 31-year-old Asia Brown, who definitely has her work cut out for her as the newly elected mayor of Compton, California. But as Lisa Godley reports, Brown is determined to rid the city of its negative image while improving the quality of life for those who call Compton home.
Growing up in Compton has been bittersweet for Asia Brown. As a child, she witnessed crime, poverty, and despair. But as a young African-American woman, she hopes to change people's perceptions of her hometown, a city once tagged the murder capital of the United States.
Grisly scene in Compton, a body is found.
But Brown doesn't seem worried. She's already changing the political landscape as the youngest black female ever elected mayor of a major U.S. city.
And I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Discharge the duties in which I am about to enter.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
I think that I represent just a new era and new opportunities for our community. We've gone through a lot in the past in terms of our leadership, And it's exciting to have qualifications and the experience needed to really move our community forward.
Brown is also the first woman to hold the office in Compton since 1973, and she plans to use her new authority to change the city's image.
We're looking at restructuring the Compton Unified School District's education system and how we do academies to really focus our kids in specific learning environments so that they're excited about learning again. And then hopefully to be able to get them off the streets and to prevent them from going into gangs and ultimately to reduce our crime rate and our recidivism rates.
Brown received her master's degree in urban planning from the University of Southern California's School of Public Policy in 2005. Since then, she's dedicated her career to initiating change in disadvantaged communities.
I think it's important for the adults to really educate our children on how to interact with law enforcement, how to really be representative. Systematic racism still exists, and it's something that we need to be cognizant of as a people and also train our kids to be able to overcome that.
Brown says staying in school is the number one tool for success, and dropping out should not be an option.
Your education is something that can never be taken away from you. And it's great to be able to educate and empower yourself and to really be in a structured environment to where you can really learn the landscape of our nation and also the global economy, because just with the increases and the revolutionary way that we're able to contact through social media, the world is much smaller today. And so it's very important for people to be educated just to get a firm foundation and understanding. High school education is truly important just to be able to move to the next step in our lives, regardless of what that step is.
In 2011, Brown co-founded the Compton-based Urban Vision Community Development Corporation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the standard of living for the citizens of Compton.
Every person that has gone through this program, they've actually been paired with job opportunities and they've been hired.
And she's ready to work to ensure more opportunities are made available to the people she now serves. She says by electing her into office, they've spoken and made it clear that they're ready for change.
I believe, and the residents also agree, that we're really at an all-time low. And so we really need to be able to have someone that's actually trained and educated and building up communities and revitalization to really be able to connect with the outside investors and policymakers and really build coalitions to move Compton forward, because we can't continue to do the same thing and then get, different results. That's insanity.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And this story was produced by Sakia Mangum, a senior at Hampton University and an intern with Another View this summer. Before we leave you today, we've got some exciting news to share. Another View is entering its third season on the radio, and we're going to make some changes. Our website debuts this coming Tuesday. AnotherViewRadio.org has a new, fresh look and makes it very easy to find past programs and to share our shows with your friends. And next Friday with the Roundtable, you will be able to actually watch us live on your computer. So if you've ever wondered what Bill Thomas looks like, stream us at WHRV.org. And we've even added some new music to the show from a very familiar composer. So be sure to tune in and check out the Another View Makeover next Friday. And if you like today's program and want to hear it again or share it with a loved one, simply go to WHRV.org, click on 89.5, and then on podcasts. Another View, the radio show, is on the first page. The Another View Roundtable is next Friday, and we'll talk about the recent decision of a New York judge regarding the N-word. He says it's absolutely not a term of endearment. For producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Victor Bowman, Eric Moore, who answered our phones, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thanks for listening, and let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.